Palestinian authorities promised to rescue the British hostages held in Gaza. But there's still no word from the group that snatched Kate Burton and her parents 2 days after they were kidnapped. Also tonight, casualty departments stretched to breaking point over Christmas as thousands seek treatment for minor injuries. The adoption revolution. Unmarried couples get the right to adopt a child together. And the forgotten heroes of the Second World War still fighting for recognition after 60 years. Hello, I'm Barbara Serra. Tonight, the Palestinian authorities are increasing the pressure on the gang that kidnapped a British aid worker and her parents, threatening to use whatever force is necessary to set the hostages free. It's now been more than 48 hours since Kate Burton and her mother and father were seized, but the group holding them have still made no demands. 5's Mark Webster has been following today's developments.
Desperate to locate the Britons and prove it has some measure of control in the Gaza Strip, the Palestinian authorities have mounted a large security operation. Roadblocks and house-to-house searches have failed to shed much light on the extremist group believed to have seized them. Nothing has been heard of Kate Burton, a fluent Arab speaker who was working with a human rights group, or her parents, Hugh and Helen, who were visiting her when they were seized. Although a dozen foreigners have been taken hostage in the area recently, all have been quickly released unharmed. The major militant groups like Hamas and the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade have been keen to distance themselves from this kidnapping.
We strongly condemn the kidnapping of the British foreigners, and we deny all the reasons and requests behind this act, whatever they will be. Wherever the kidnappers are, they should release the British citizens immediately.
Diplomatic efforts to trace the trio have intensified, with contacts between the British government and the Palestinians. But with no clear idea of who is holding them, there's been no evidence of any progress.
Those who have them have not yet made any demands and have not announced who they are. These are the enemies of the Palestinian people. We will get them, and if we have to use force, we will.
Public demonstrations of support have added to the pressure on the Palestinian authorities to act. But with every hour that passes, anxiety about their fate grows. Mark Webster, 5 News.
And joining us live tonight from Jerusalem is 5's Emma Hurd. Emma, do the Palestinian authorities have any idea who might be holding the hostages?
Unfortunately, they don't at this stage, which is their main problem, and this is what is alarming them the most, that there is absolute silence from the kidnappers, no list of demands, which is something past experience suggests, and there have been many kidnappings in Gaza, they would have received by now. There are lots of conflicting reports that this may be a militant faction trying to secure the release of one of their members, that this may be an armed faction simply trying to gain increased power inside the Gaza Strip, but all of those reports have so far come to nothing. I should tell you one development tonight. The Muslim Council of Great Britain have decided to try to help this process by sending a negotiator to the Gaza Strip. He will obviously join the British officials who are already working alongside the Palestinians there.
Emma Hurd in Jerusalem, thanks for the update. Now, back in the UK, with New Year's Eve only a day away, the accident and emergency units in our hospitals are bracing themselves for one of their busiest nights of the year. But many are already stretched to the limit. With many GPs' surgeries closed for Christmas, there has been a surge of patients going to casualty, often for minor ailments. 5's Jason Farrell reports.
A race against time, a life or death operation. That's what we associate with A&E. But that's not how people are using it, especially over this holiday period.
People turning up with a hangover, often with injuries. People will turn up with sniffles, they'll turn up with a bit of diarrhea and vomiting, they'll turn up with sore throats, all the minor ailments, which many of them could be treated without actually seeing their doctor, but by going to a chemist.
And some patients freely admit, on a bank holiday, whatever the ailment, A&E is their first choice.
Instead of calling a doctor, then he referring to go ambulance or something, you know, it cuts that out, you see, you know.
It's much quicker to come here.
Yeah.
In 2004, 15,900,000 people went through A&E doors. In 2005, it was 17,300,000. Up 8% in a year. What's going on? Since January this year, GPs have been able to opt out of offering a weekend and out-of-hours service.
When the government said we could stop doing out-of-hours work if we took a pay cut, most family doctors felt that was the right thing to do, so they could provide a better service during the day and not be so tired the day after they'd been on call.
Faced with closed signs on surgery doors, sick patients are unsure where to go. But there is guidance available.
Good afternoon, you're through to NHS Direct.
If people are unsure about what to do about symptoms, if they're worried about their health, NHS Direct is a good first port of call. But NHS Direct is more than just a telephone service. In every home in England, in the back of the Thompson Directory is the NHS Direct Self-Help Guide, Not Feeling Well. And what that does is give basic guidance on some fairly common symptoms.
Faced with a self-help guide or a long wait, some would prefer to pay.
So this is the actual casualty department.
Casualty Plus offers a basic fee for consultancy with a price list for treatment in the waiting room.
I guess what surprised me is it's quite quiet at the moment, isn't it? I think the key thing is that our turnaround times are quickly. Yes. In other words, our whole aim is to keep the waiting room empty.
Francis Clark came here after struggling with A&E.
We have such a long wait. Then they ran out of medication because the drugs had gone. There were no more drugs left.
If, like Ken White, you break your leg doing DIY, it's clear-cut, you go to hospital. But clearly not everyone is using A&E solely for accidents and emergencies. Jason Farrell, 5 News.
It's been called the biggest change in the adoption laws for 30 years. Now, for the first time, unmarried and same-sex couples can adopt a child together. Previously, unmarried people adopted individually, which meant their partners had virtually no parental rights. 5's Layla Hayes has been looking into the new laws.
The traditional nuclear family may have changed over the years, but the law on adoption has taken a while to catch up. Until now, only married couples have been allowed to jointly adopt a child. You can adopt if you're single, but if you're in an unmarried or gay relationship, only one partner can become the child's adoptive parent. Simon Adams and John Doyle have been together 9 years and have 2 adopted daughters. Because they're not married, they've only been allowed to adopt one of the girls each. But the change in the law means they can now become joint parents to both children.
I think it's important because you're then seen as a valid couple, and that you are actually allowed to adopt that child together, and you're seen as a couple rather than, because at the moment what happens is you're assessed as a couple, all the assessments are as a couple, and it's just the law that gets in the way, really.
Campaigners say the new law is good news for children in care because more unmarried couples, whether straight or gay, will come forward.
Increasingly in our society, some couples decide to live together rather than to get married, and that doesn't mean that they haven't got the same capacity to provide a loving family through adoption.
The new law will also give parents who gave up their children for adoption new rights to try to trace them. Last year there were more than 61,000 children in care in England and Wales. Just under 4,000 of those children were adopted. The government has pledged to increase the number of adoptions by 40%. Everyone agrees that more adoptive parents need to be found, but some argue that letting unmarried couples in on the act is not the answer.
A married couple with a baby have an 8% chance of breakup within 5 years. A cohabiting couple, similar circumstances, a 52% chance of breakup. That's over 5 times, which therefore strongly suggests cohabitation is simply not an equivalent to marriage.
But Simon and John insist they're as committed as any married couple.
Our life revolves around our children, and they have us as parents that are interested in the way they grow up. We want them to be very socially aware and actually give something to society when they're older. And I think the fact that we're gay as parents really shouldn't make any difference.
Times may have changed, but with so many children in care, many feel that increasing their chance of adoption can only be a good thing. Layla Hayes, 5 News.
Well, let's bring you some news in brief now. And police in North Tyneside have been questioning known sex offenders as they search for a man who abducted a girl from her bath. The 6-year-old was found wandering naked in the streets near a home on Tuesday. Detectives say the man they're looking for is extremely dangerous. Snow and freezing conditions have been causing problems for motorists in the northeast of England. 200 cars were trapped in drifts in Yorkshire, but forecasters are saying the cold snap is nearly over, with milder weather spreading throughout the UK from tonight. And we'll have all the weather for the New Year weekend later in the programme. Now, the sight of people lighting up a cigarette in public is about to become a rare one, with a partial ban expected to be introduced next year. But it seems people now want restrictions on smoking to go even further. A new survey by anti-smoking groups found that 72% of people questioned want a complete ban in all workplaces, pubs and bars. That's much higher than a similar survey indicated last year. Government plans for a ban in England will allow smoking in pubs and bars which are not serving food, and private members' clubs will also be exempt. Well, Liverpool is one city hoping to follow places like Dublin and New York by becoming totally smoke-free, as 5's Catherine Jacob reports.
To smoke or not to smoke, that's the burning question, and nowhere is the debate more heated than on Merseyside. Here the powers that be believe the government's flying in the face of public opinion in England by refusing to follow Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland and bring in a total ban on smoking in public places. They're campaigning in Parliament for a completely smoke-free Liverpool.
Our message to the government would be a simple one. Make all workplaces smoke-free. Protect all workers in exactly the same way. Don't prejudice some workers who happen to work in the poorest areas and the poorest pubs. Give everybody the same health chance.
At the moment, the government's planning a partial ban for March 2007, so as long as they don't serve food, smoky pubs like this one can continue to allow people to smoke. But today's survey suggests that the majority of the British public disagree with the government's proposals and would prefer all pubs to be like this one, completely smoke-free.
The support is there for all pubs and bars to go smoke-free in England. There's no reason for them to be excluded. Labour MPs want to support this. All they need is Tony Blair's permission.
With the new year looming, Tom Youngmeyer is one of thousands who's resolved to give up smoking in 2006. He too believes a total ban on smoking in pubs would help him.
I think most people probably welcome it. You know, as a group, smokers be like, oh no, that's a bad thing. But as individuals, they're probably kind of sitting there going, oh, you know what, that might actually help me to quit.
Tom's resorted to alternative therapy to try to give up, and even his hypnotherapist claims there's a major link between drinking and smoking.
Take a deep breath in, let that breath out nice and slow. As that breath goes out, just let those eyes close. If you go out and drink alcohol, you have a great time with your friends, and you smoke, they all become triggers. And unfortunately, through repetition, you smoke, you're having a great time, that gets linked in.
The government's trying to cut the number of smokers by 2 million by 2010, and today it announced that children who smoke are to be offered nicotine patches on the NHS without parental consent.
I mean, like any medicine, there are risks, and we don't want to expose children to risks unnecessarily. But that needs to be balanced against the risk of smoking. It's the greatest source of preventable ill health and death.